Hello, everyone, and welcome to Manthano Parenting Conference. In case you don't know me, my name is Karen Uroma, and I am the host of this amazing conference, as well as the CEO of Manthano. And really, I want to just start like I always do and just saying thank you for taking out time to be a part of this conference. I mean, if you've been with us from the beginning, I know that you've listened to 6 amazing speakers who've shared from their heart and talked about topics which I know will be a blessing to each and every one. It's been great hearing I know that you're going to have so many aha moments. I think I'm just going to enjoy actually having the privilege really to hear what every one of us shares as we listen to these speakers. And I know you're going to be blessed because that's what we're here to do. We're here to serve. Manthano is really, that's our mission. When it comes to Manthano, we're here to serve you, to support you, equip you, resource, value, and empower you. And I really hope that through this conference, we'll be able to do that. And I have the privilege of interviewing myself as I talk about my book and insight into parenting styles with a biblical perspective and understanding the impact on children. And so I start, as I will, with what the question that I have asked every speaker is, why did I write this book? And looking down the line, I think I wrote this book really because we went through, I remember years and years ago, we did a training at my workplace and we talked about personality styles. And I was intrigued actually, as I began to listen about the various personality styles, that there was actually a personality style in which I did fit into. Never heard of this before. And they talked about the various ones, but I fell into dominant and compliant because there weren't just one personality styles, but I fitted into 2 really. I could identify myself in those 2 areas. And when they talked about the personality styles, they were looking at how it affects relationships among the employees, how it affects the way in which you make a decision. It affects how you respond to your environment. And I saw how my personality styles, I saw the pros, I saw the cons, I saw how I have a lot of self-confidence, but also a lot of creativity. I can be very driven, but at the other time, it can invite others to feel inadequate and insignificant. So I was really conscious of the fact that actually my personality styles, there's some good points to it, but if I'm not aware about my personality styles, I won't be aware of how it can actually come across to somebody else. So I began to think, because then I was a single mom with 2 children, how does my personality style affect my relationship with my children? How do they perceive me? So I began to really look at that, and I would say, stumbled across parenting styles. Now, when I looked into parenting styles, the more I read about it, the more I began to see its importance, because really, when you look at parenting style, it's all about how we connect with your child. But for a bigger and much more better definition of parenting style simply refers to your method and approach to parenting a child, and how you communicate, interact, discipline, and respond to their behavior. And your parenting style is influenced by numerous factors, such as your personality. And I talk about that in the book. And I talk about temperaments. It's affected by your culture. It's affected by the way you were brought up as a child. It's also affected by the many experiences you've had over the years that have now formed your inner beliefs. And hardly would you find a parent with just one parenting style. I think typically people may behave in one parenting style in most situations, and often show traits from other parenting styles in other situations. So in this book, I talk about 4 styles. And it was introduced in the 1960s by a lady called Diane Merrind. And she was a clinical and developmental psychologist that conducted a study on more than 100 preschool age children. And from her study, from her research, more and more research was done into it. And I saw, as I read this and as I began to study it, I would say it was important for me to learn about the pros and the cons of each style and the possible effects it would have on my children, be it their self-esteem, their behavior, how they relate to the world, their relationship with God. And also, I think it helped me. I would say it really did help me to be aware of my triggers. And by understanding that, it gave me an opportunity to change various areas in my life, in myself, that I felt would have a lifelong impact on the relationship I have with my own children. So I would say learning about parenting styles actually gave me so much clarity and understanding. And from a psychologist or a counselor's point of view, when you talk about having clarity and understanding in an area, they would say you have insight. And with insight is so important, hence the title of the book, because it enables one to self-reflect. It's observed that through self-reflection, we can become aware of why we think, why we feel and behave the way we do. And I'm on and on about self-reflection. I think my children, when they hear the word think, feel and behave, they're like, oh, mommy, but it's so true. When you are able to self-reflect, there is self-awareness. And through self-awareness, we can attempt to separate our own needs and feelings from the challenging situations that of our children in order to respond appropriately. What do I mean by that? Let's just take, for instance, your child is going through something, and actually it's their mood, the way they're talking about it, or the way they're reacting in a particular kind of situation. You may, depending on your personality, depending on your parenting style, you might think it's either rude or just depending on, and because maybe, let's just take, for instance, you feel that it is rude, you might begin to react, because who wants a rude child? I mean, who wants a child to talk to them in a rude way? But then by addressing it, by addressing the child's behavior and just focusing on why they were so rude, you're not really going into the main situation that your child may be going through. Maybe they actually had a bad day. Maybe they've got some peer pressures going on. Maybe they've been bullied, and hence the reaction that is coming out from your child. Maybe they feel as if they're not being heard, or they're beginning to feel that your words, are pulling them down. Whatever it may be the situation, by actually taking your way out of it and just saying, I really want to understand what my child is going through. You're able to, through that self-awareness, be able to respond better, which basically brings clear benefits to a child. It helps to promote secure attachment. For when parents aren't self-aware, they tend to get caught up in their own emotions instead of being present with their child. Take, for instance, if you have a rebellious child, I know how it can be tedious, it can be challenging, it can be trying. And if you have a permissive kind of style in the way in which you parent your child, you may come across in order to try and change your child's rebellious attitude. You might either try and coax the child, try and bribe the child, or if you're controlling, there'll be a lot more rules, a lot more shouting and screaming and telling off, and also you may unconsciously, I would say, repeat the behavioral patterns of how you were brought up in your parenting as you parent that rebellious child, which then will not have any benefit to the child, which will not be able to help support you in supporting that rebellious child. I give you a good example. My child, I remember one of my daughters, my very first daughter, when it came to her and her 11 plus, I'm sure parents have been there when it comes to children taking their 11 plus exams. It can be a sense where it's trying, tiring, or you're feeling as if you're the one taking the exam and not your child. And I remember telling myself that, and she, my first daughter, when she anything to do with studying, she's got a very different temperament, very easygoing. I can tell her to sit down, read, and she'll just do it. And I thought to myself, well, this is so easy. I really felt good about myself because I had already vowed in my heart that I was not going to do the approach that my dad did to me. Because my dad, when he taught me, believe you me, I think because he was so worried, I think maybe the thoughts in his head was that, my daughter is not getting it, so she's probably going to fail. And I think that's what probably triggered him getting very annoyed or screaming and shouting at me. And I remember I said to myself that this is not working. In my mind, I said it and dare not say it to my dad. And I said to myself, I'm never going to shout at my child when they do this, when I'm teaching my child. I'm not going to do that. It has no benefits whatsoever. Come my second child. Now she is different in her temperament when it comes to learning. She gets very emotional, especially when she doesn't understand it. And so her emotions, as she expresses her discomfort, as she expresses the way in which she's not, how she's not enjoying what she's learning at the moment, it can come across a bit rude sometimes, And I remember, one time feeling very tired and, upset. And I remember, unfortunately, I yelled at her at that point in time. And no parent wants to yell at that child, but often, our child's emotions, our behavior can trigger emotion and behaviors in ourselves, especially if we're stressed and tired out. And I thought to myself, because I was self-aware, I was able to, take a breather and say, this is really not about me, because me with my parenting style, I know I could either become very controlling or become one where I might become extremely permissive, trying to console her and get her to, read, but then because I was self-aware, I was able to, take a step back and say, what can I do? How can I help you? Which was helpful to her. So often, children, when we are not self-aware, like I keep repeating myself, children and the parents can feel disconnected from each other. The children, if you're not aware of how your parenting style affects your child, you can either leave your child feeling angry, hurt, or misunderstood. So I remember, I watched a program where they brought various parents together. And I was amazed about the various parenting styles that parents had. They had parents from various religious backgrounds, parents from various cultures, various beliefs. And you had parenting styles that I never heard about, like nature, French, strict, helicopter, tiger, or attachment. And but then you find that at the end of the program, I found that you can actually, no matter the number of parenting styles, actually just divide them into 4, which I list, being permissive, authoritarian, authoritative, and neglect. Why? Because parenting style is all about communicating. It's how we communicate. It talks about how you interact and discipline and respond. All these things are important. It's important for us as parents to have boundaries in place. It's important for us as parents to have consequences and for a child's behavior, but it's also important to connect. It's important to make sure that whatever you're doing in the parenting we're doing, that we're actually still making sure that we are connecting with our children feel heard. Our children feel as if, no matter what, they are loved. And the scripture, the Bible talks a lot about this. I mean, it talks about discipline in Proverbs 29, verse 15. It says, to discipline a child produces wisdom, but a mother is disgraced by an undisciplined child. It also goes on into Proverbs 29, verse 17. It says, discipline your children, and they will give you peace of mind and will make your heart glad. But then the Bible also talks about the importance of building trust and also connecting with our children. I mean, Colossians 3, verse 21 is a beautiful example of this. And that is from the Amplified Bible. It says, fathers, it says, do not provoke or irritate or exasperate your children with demands that are trivial or unreasonable or humiliating or abusive, nor by favoritism or indifference. It says, treat them tenderly with loving kindness so that they will not lose heart and become discouraged or unmotivated, or you get them to, because of the way in which we are interacting with our children, we leave children with broken spirits. And I think the one thing that God says, which really made me realize the importance of my style, the way I parent our children. It says, look, if you break a child's heart, if you cause a child to become, to do anything that is considered to be sinful because of our behavior, it says it is better for a parent or anybody that deals with children to have a stone actually wrapped around their neck. So I think that is really harsh words from the father, but at least it tells us how important it is, because even as we look at the way we communicate and discipline our children, looking at it from the authoritarian style. When you're looking at the way you communicate or discipline a child, the way an authoritarian style is perceived or will come across is that it will basically, what you're trying to say to your child is that it's my way or no way. And so you may use phrases like, if I catch you doing this again, and then the child goes, you know what, you're not going to catch me doing this. I'm going to make sure I'll hide even better next time. And the way in which we delegate, the way in which we interact with our children, it gives no room for explanations. There's a lot of control. There's a lot of demands. And so a child doesn't really understand why, or they don't even understand the reasons for the values you have in place. And the child can often feel not heard whenever they disagree. The child can often feel angry or hurt with this type of authoritarian style, because it comes across a lot of it's either my way or no way. But on the other hand, an authoritative style, it comes across more of like, this is our way. You're teaching your child this is our way. And when they disagree, it's like, but I want to understand why you want it your way, even though I may or may not agree to it. Why? And here with this type of style, you're really trying to see the world through your child's eyes. You want to understand what they're seeing. You're inviting collaboration. You're inviting problem solving. You're using words like, how can I help? Where do we go from here? What do you think? If you were in my position, what would you do? What do you think is best? And you're building children who are curious. You're building teenagers who are able to make better decisions. And this is so important, because when we force children to comply, it does create resistance. Now, looking at it from a permissive parenting style, it's more like, with that type of style, you're more trying to please the child. It's not that you're not meeting the child's daily needs, like the physical needs or the importance of taking them to school, making sure they're healthy. You're all meeting all that, but at the same time, you're still, when it comes to discipline, there is really no discipline in place, because you're more, because of maybe your personality or the way you were brought up, or the way in which you now think, you now feel that pleasing a child is so much more important than discipline your children. So you're letting your child have their own way all the time. So it's more like, this is my way, but have it your way in this scenario. Now, for a neglect parenting style, it could be because either there's medical issues going on with the parent, or maybe the parent has some mental issues too. So more of, with this type of style, you find out that it's more of, they don't communicate their way, and they don't even mind which way the child goes. So the children are more actually creating their own values. They're the ones that taking care of themselves. They're the ones that go through life and challenges by themselves. But you see, childhood is actually a golden opportunity to form layers of thought in our children. We don't really want children to live and be a carbon copy of us. Really, we want to make sure that no matter what we're doing, we're creating individuals that are able to have a mind of their own. And as Christians, we're also important that we're making sure that our children have high levels of spiritual intelligence, have a positive self-esteem about themselves. They're able to, as John Maxwell would say, I love his quote. He says, a leader, when a child is a leader, they know the way, they go the way, and they show others the way. And as a child who has a Christian upbringing, you actually want your child to understand what they know about God for themselves. You want them to know about it. You want them to be able to go that way independently, regardless of the challenges, regardless of the peer pressure, regardless of the influences. You want them to be able to have because children will actually, they're not going to be a carbon copy of ourselves, as I said before. They're actually going to have values of their own. We want their values to align with what God says, not from what we have said. So if you were a controlling parent, you're basically trying to tell them, do what I do. But no, we want our children to be able to understand what they understand for themselves based on what their own understanding of God. So we want children to be able to have their own identity and a good moral character within themselves. So our parenting style does have an influence on our child's spiritual development. So it's important that we foster relationships in our children as we parent them. And that does not come automatically. It comes through trust. It comes through when we're building relationships. It comes in our communication. It comes when we show empathy. So we're asking ourselves, when you're looking at your parenting style, is my parenting helping or harming my child? And the Bible, it gives several examples of effective parenting methods and some disastrous parenting methods too. And it can actually, when you look at the Bible, it can actually also be based into the 4 parenting styles that I talk about in this book. Take, for instance, David. I mean, we know of David that David was a man after God's heart. He was one that actually did believe in God. He believed in the love of God. But when I look at the life of David and the way in which he interacted with his children, unfortunately, he did not share his values with his children. There was a lot of instances when he either became neglectful, permissive, or controlling in his authority. He had a very authoritarian parenting style. Looking at Ammon, for example, he's one of his children. Ammon had was going through a lot of conflict at one stage where he was in love with, he felt he loved his stepsister. Now, I feel that if Ammon understood what that from the way his dad interacted, from the way in which his dad role modeled his beliefs to his children, he would have known that that was wrong. But he didn't, because there was a lot of turmoil in his heart as to what should I do here. And unfortunately, instead of going to his father, he now went to his cousin who gave him wrong advice. As a result of that, something unfortunate happened. And the Bible says that though David was angry, he did nothing. So he was uninvolved in the spiritual development of his son, and also in the disciplining of his child, which led to it triggered several things. It caused Adonijah to unfortunately plan a way in which to get even with his brother by killing his brother. And even when Adonijah did that, and I think Adonijah rose up to that, because when he looked at his dad, he looked at the way in which his dad was being very permissive and neglectful. He thought he'll step in. He thought that he'll do what his dad was supposed to do. Now, if David had communicated, if David had been responsible and decided to, effectively deal with Ammon, tell him how God hates what he had done, brought God into the picture, allowed Ammon to see that this was wrong, Adonijah wouldn't have done what he had done. But Adonijah did it, and still the Bible says David loved his son, but he did nothing. He was controlling in that sense, in that he sent his son away. He told his son, this is not, his son should go away, but he still did not talk. It still did not communicate to his son, which left Adonijah having a very selfish nature, which led things to happen, which goes on in my book, and which you see, because when parents are either permissive or neglectful, children will have values, but they may come across as being selfish, or being entitled, or wanting to have their own way all the time. Therefore, if trustworthy people, it's important that trustworthy people actually role model the love of God in their interactions with their children. Then a child will learn to trust. And because if a child's needs are not met, if they are ridiculed, if they are abused, where a child does not lack trust, where our values are not communicated in a way in which a child is able to understand, why do you believe what you do, they are likely to imitate a behavior that goes against the values of God, or develop a careless attitude towards God. Children need biblical wisdom. They need parents who are positively affecting, parents who positively affect their children with the way in which they communicate the reasons for their belief in their parenting style. And involved parents can assist their children in finding answers to questions relating to life, and relating to questions such as the big questions, the challenges that children go through, such as sex or peer pressure or anything. It's important to God. It's important that, our conversations when we are parenting our children, that we are impacting them. We want our children to be followers of God and not followers of us. So it comes to my next question, how do you build a leader? And that's something we do in our parenting with Angel Eyes and our masterclass that we offer in Manthano. We say that it's important for parents to build leaders. Now, for us to build a leader, we must make sure that we see ourselves as ambassadors. We see ourselves not as the ones in control. When you feel as if you're in control, when you feel as if you must get things in control, it will come out in your parenting style. When you feel as if there should be no control, when you feel as if, it's important that I just love my children, love on them with little discipline, it will come out in your parenting style. Now, I remember even in the film I watched, there was a Christian parent. It was extremely controlling, and you could see the impact it had on the children. The children, when they were with their parents, they were well behaved. Their manners was beautiful, but outside of their parents' eyes, it was a different ballgame altogether. They had a different way of thinking. That shows that their parents did not affect their children in the way in which they communicated. Now, in summary, it is safe to say that each specific parent and child relationship has a direct impact on the shaping of your child's spiritual character, the child's social and their cognitive development. Children need your discipline. They need boundaries. They need direction, but they also need connection and they need guidance. So responding instead of reacting to your child's needs of behavior, especially in those challenging situations, it is important to ask God, what should I do? How can I meet my child's needs? If David had done that, he would not have been in the position he was when it came to Ammon. Therefore, no matter your parenting style, we must understand the pros. It's important for us to understand the pros and the cons, and to be able to know that it will affect our children in real life situations and in the decisions that they make. And like I explained, we don't need to change our parenting styles. I think the starting point for every parent is when you're understanding the different types of parenting styles, the different ways in which it can affect the child. I think it's a starting point. It helps you to adjust your parenting skills. It helps you in whatever predominant parenting style you find yourself, whatever ways, it helps you to understand your strengths. It helps you to understand your weaknesses. It helps you to say sorry when you know that whatever your parenting style is, that it's affecting your child. And I think this is the best way forward, really, because it will enable you to see your parenting skills more clearly and adjust where necessary, knowing that there is no perfect parent or perfect child. So that's where it is when I come to parenting styles. I think I can go on and on when it comes to this topic, but I like to just give us a take-home activity to say that, because I get this a lot, really, looking at parenting styles. I think some parents often ask me, but my parenting style is different from the way in which my wife or my husband's parenting style is, and that does affect the way in which we parent our children. I would say to parents, I'll give you a take-home activity in this. I would say, discuss first of all your parenting, your values. What are your values as parents? Have a vision of it, write them down, communicate it to your children. Use that as your starting point so that all the other things, which may be important to you at that point in time, where you clash, where you find yourself clashing, you start thinking to yourselves, is it because where is the values here? What are our values here? Okay, based on my values, then let us agree to go this way based on our values. Yeah. And also, when you're looking at your parenting style, think about here's another assignment for you. Look how realistically do you speak with your children? Are you building a bridge of trust and security through your honesty and your openness with them? Or are you building hurt? Are you building pain? Are you building anger? I think when you can honestly answer that question, then you'll be able to better self-reflect in the way in which you parent and how your style may be affecting or maybe harming, hurting, or supporting your child. So that's that from me. I hope you're blessed. Do note that we have an amazing wealth of resources in our webpage, www.manthano.co.uk. I think the link will be there for you. So please do access the other resources that we have. We have training in parenting styles. I'm going to be doing a course on that, a masterclass on that. So do make sure you sign up for that. We also will be, I also have an ebook that I'll be giving out on that too, for you to just, as a way of, once you join up with the masterclass, you will get an ebook on that, which will be a journey to, as we talk about parenting styles in that masterclass. And also we have other resources, we have books, we have apps that you can also, and we do offer training that you can also avail yourself of. So do make sure you go on our website and have a read on that. And so thank you so much for being a part of this session. And we will go back into Facebook, our Facebook community to answer the live questions and give you answers to any questions that you have. So until then, I see you soon. Take care and God bless. Bye-bye.